The internet is a vast, unknowable place. The parts that you and I interact with on a daily basis are but a very small sliver of what's actually floating around out there. The web can go deep, and it can get dark. Within these corners of the internet, a game is said to exist. It is called Sad Satan, and it's a horror game unlike a lot of others that I've ever came across. It cannot be bought at your local GameStop, nor can it be downloaded digitally via traditional storefronts like Steam. It allegedly can only be downloaded via the tools that can access the hidden depths of the internet, like Tor. Some of the internet exists in places that we cannot normally see. You may know this as the deep web. The term sounds pretty ominous, given that it's seen as the underground internet, where mostly shady stuff like hacking or drug dealing occurs. Something that the deep web is particularly good for, however, is being anonymous. Users can upload stuff to something called Onion incognito, and anyone that accesses the content will have a much harder time tracing the source. Even so, I do not recommend traveling into the deepest corners of the internet unless you truly know what you are getting yourself into. Some people have been in grave danger from exploring these said parts, whether it's black marketing, illegal dealings, hitmen, and the list can go on. The deep web, that some may think is just a fantasy or a myth, is in fact very much real. A lot of what you see and browse now, whether it's you going onto your browsing sites like Google, or as you are watching me speak with you in this video using the YouTube platform. These basic sites are the very top of the surface in which we see normally, but as some choose to dig deeper, they will find a lot more than they could ever imagine. And I say that one of these gateways, or shall I say first exposures to the deep web, is this walking simulator. I will attempt to diagnose this game with my research, and you may even learn a thing or two on what the internet can really be about at its darkest moments. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. Very rarely does a guy who reviews horror games discover something that can genuinely freak them out, but for Jamie Farrell, an Irish YouTuber who runs the channel Obscure Horror Corner, Sad Satan, a game without an author buried on the deep web, did exactly that. Farrell called it the creepiest game he has ever played. As he navigated the throbbing corridors and the glaring halls of Sad Satan, he heard various indecipherable sounds and audio clips. Famous photographs revealed sinister and satanic imagery. It generated weird text files that blipped on and off too. He then saw coded messages and era photography. At one point, he came across a malformed little girl who let out a scream so loud that it clipped the audio in his headphones. The game even started threatening him, so he eventually deleted it. Sad Satan is the first game to ever be discovered on the deep web, hidden on a part of the internet unindexed by search engines like Google, and it is unreachable without specialized tools. It is also the first game born from the darkness of the deep web, but it's hardly even a game, so much as an experimental platform. In the videos, it's difficult to tell if Farrell is moving or not moving, if he's taken a single prescribed path, or one of many paths, or if there's even one at all. Sad Satan is the first game that is like an obelisk or an artifact in a horror movie that was discovered hidden away on the deep web, as well as abandoned and out of sight on a part of the internet hidden by everything on the surface. It's not particularly well made either. The audio is messy and the graphics are atrocious and ugly. There's little actual gameplay or narrative and little to learn as you go alone. But like the hidden nature of how it was found, it adds to the fundamental eeriness of Sad Satan. My guess was that it was done deliberately. It is remarkably unsettling, even if you're just watching the game being played on YouTube. Partially, it's the audio, which works wonders for setting up a creepy tone. But in some ways, the crudeness of the game is exactly what makes it so potent. It adds authenticity. Horror is not a genre that revels in polish. It's often defined by rawness, by its sharp edges. This is why found footage horror movies are a thing. This is also why early survival horror games with bad control still manage to become classics. Horror is messy, in the same way real life is messy. It's ordinary, in the same way real life is ordinary, which means it can happen to you. Whatever the reasons, the internet is working madly to decode the puzzle. After the game broke out on Obscure Horror Corner, small communities of sleuths onto Reddit were attempting to parse out the clues, source the bits of photography, and recorded audio to find the answers to the Sad Satan puzzle. Many of the game's oddities appear to be codified clues, starting with the name of the game itself. Throughout the game, small clips of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven play in your ear. The song has a famously controversial segment that, when played in reverse, it sounds like they were saying there was a little tool shed where he made us suffer, Sad Satan. In my honest opinion, only the last two words sound even close to what people think they've heard. There's also imagery and more. A small collection of photos crops up throughout the game, flashing at random intervals and checkpoints for a few seconds on screen. One is a simple illustration of the satanic idol Baphomet, or the Sabbatic goat. Another shows Franz Joseph at the historical Konopast castle when a famous genocider fell from power. Another is of DJ, an allegedly prophilic offender, Jimmy Savile, posing with Margaret Thatcher. Roman Polanski and other abusers appear as well. Other pieces include audio from a Polish spy transmission, as well as speeches from a famous genocider. There is no explanation or consistency taken altogether, except for their common theme of classical Satanism: the horns, pentacles, and the number 666, as well as general expressions of evil and horror. The game surrounds you with delusions, severe paranoia, and most importantly, images of trauma from ritualistic abuse that they are not trying to scare you with, but more so inform you of. Because of the nature of this, Sad Satan may actually be a campaign to denounce ritualistic abuse for the public, but that could be a stretch. Toward the end of Farrell's third video, his latest, the game starts playing Charles Manson's monologues, and eventually it gets stuck on the classic Manson refrain, "If I started people, there'd be none of you left." That's when you spot these weird messages. There are also a small handful of these white keycards, written in a Unicode jumble. With substitutions, one Redditor was able to come up with this summary of translations. The new age of internet-based urban legends, no matter what Sad Satan is, it has entered the realm of creepypasta, or frightening internet memes that begin as digestible bits of internet horror. Like the old traditions of urban legends, these myths start spawning new branches, and they are repopulating across web forums in the form of videos, audio clips, fake reports, and stories. Even if Sad Satan was only meant to be a self-contained project, the aching void left behind by a lack of answers could inspire others to contribute, in turn creating more media, more questions, and deeper mysteries. All we could do now is wait to see if more clues emerge in the future, unless, like other times in the history of internet horror, the story takes on a life of its own. As for finding another copy of the game, Farrell is in touch with the original subscriber, the only person who knows which forum the game originally surfaced on, who tipped him off and is working on finding a second download link so that more people could find the game. Unless he can find a duplicate of the original file, the 5 videos Feral created are the only evidence that remains of Sad Satan. For now, we wait to see if more clues come to the light, either from Feral or the game's creator, if he or she is out there watching, and wondered if we just stumbled into a claustrophobic corner full of cobwebs and empty answers, or a rabbit hole leading to even more questions, and possibly darker places. Very strange how someone has the time, and I guess the mindset to be able to craft a thing like this. I wouldn't really even call it a game because to me, it's an ugly black and white walking simulator with jump scares and JPEGs, as well as reversed music from bands. But the mystery that lies behind this game is a pretty filthy one at that. I would consider it a gateway to the deep web, given that there is similar content onto it like what Sad Satan showed. But, as I have stated in previous videos, whenever you go online, be very careful with certain things you click around on, whether it's shady websites, strange emails, or anonymous posts, as well as messages. It could potentially lead you down a dangerous path that you can't crawl out of. Or, if you are lucky, nothing will happen. In conclusion, I do not suggest playing this game. Rumors are that the game could potentially give you a virus when you try and download it. Not always a guarantee, but it is recommended to stay cautious if you even want to try this thing out. But if not, let me spoil it for you. It's a very short game with not really much backstory to it, except for the production behind it. Thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a good morning, a good afternoon, and I hope you all have yourselves a good night.